less problem. But then, whether we like it or not, we're already there. Nobody wanted to die. Nobody wanted to disappear. And other hand, human beings also have, I think, tremendous sort of, I think, great potential for good thing. With human intelligence, with human good heart, if these two join, then ability from human intelligence and a determination, sense of caring, or infinite altruistic can develop from human heart. It's something wonderful. The other species of mammals cannot practice or cannot develop such things. So this is our, I think, the unique quality. I think we must, realize this good quality, and we must utilize this quality effectively. So, when we face a conflict or disagreement, essentially because of human intelligence, we have a lot of visions, a lot of ideas, so it's a conflict develop. So the proper way to overcome this conflict also is human intelligence. Try to find, the positive way with determination, sense of caring, look long-sighted, short-term, far-sightedness, and long-term interest. Through that way, I think, we can solve all these conflict. At least, I think, we can minimize this conflict. And as a result, certainly, we can be I think, less man-made problem, man-made suffering. So usually I describe, if we true selfish, then should be a wise selfish rather than foolish selfish. But if you think the all human problem can solve by material development alone, that's wrong. In order to achieve meaningful life, happy life, the mental factor is equally very important. So there is no point to neglect about mental quality. So I think material development and mental development, these must go together.
In Western society, we tend to consider youth, and especially a forever young body, to be the ultimate goal at times. How can we alter that notion so that we can enjoy maturing instead?
I think the problem is what do you identify with? You know, if you're brought up in a completely materialistic worldview, then you identify with material things. So toys, money, sex, and power become very important goals in life. And, you know, they're not really unimportant goals. Everybody who has a physical body is going to have physical needs. And even St. Augustine said in his earlier days, he said, Lord, give me chastity, give me continence, but not just now. So, you know, toys and money and sex and power are not lesser gods. By gods, I mean desires, because desires are the mechanics of manifestation. I don't think toys and money and sex and power are lesser gods. I think they're perhaps earlier gods. You know, a man has to fulfill, a woman has to fulfill their material aspirations before they aspire to higher things. Just like before you do that, you have to fill your stomach with food and have shelter. You know, we have hierarchies of needs. You start with food and shelter, then you get into material luxuries. And finally, when you have all that, you aspire to higher, or you might say later, gods.
Couldn't you skip those material ones? Do you think you need to pass them?
I think in the world that we live in, you probably need to go through those stages. If you skip it, you'll be like the monk who's sitting up there in a monastery and actually is not there at all because his attention is out in the other world. You've heard that Zen story probably about these two monks. You know the story about the young monk and the old monk. And
please tell us.
well, there's this young monk and there's the old monk, and they're on a pilgrimage and they come across a stream, and there's a beautiful young woman there who cannot swim and she wants to go across, and the young monk says, "Sit on my shoulder and I'll carry you across the river." And of course, in that process, he becomes a little intimate with her. But when they get across the stream, he puts her down and off they go on their pilgrimage. And as they're walking on their pilgrimage, you can see that the old monk has a scowl on his face and he's upset. And as they continue on their journey, he apparently gets more and more disturbed. And finally, he can't hold himself anymore. He looks to the young monk and he says, "I can't believe you did that." And the young monk says, "What?" He says, "I really can't believe you did that. You know, we're supposed to be celebrate monks, and you carried that young woman across the stream on your shoulder." And the young woman said, "Well, I left her 6 hours ago. You're still carrying her." So it's very obvious that true detachment, which is the goal of spirituality, in order to embrace the wholeness and leave the fragment, is in consciousness. It's not really in the world of matter. This example of the monk is a good example. So I think, we all have to go through certain phases in our life, and that's why it's so important not to be judgmental and morally self-righteous about what is or is not spiritual.
But you mean the attachment to the body conserved the same way is the same kind of...
It's a search for spirituality. This whole attention to the body, this whole attention to glamour and to material things is a search for joy. And any search for joy is a search for the spirit. Now, you will discover one day that it's not enough, but nobody can tell you that.
You need to experience it by yourself.
You need to find out for yourself, and you may not this time around.
But you don't even think that we should try to alter the attitude towards youth and young bodies?
We shouldn't try to alter anything. We should just explore very quietly in our own awareness what gives us joy. And that if you do that, if you take the time to be alert and aware, you'll discover on your own. But if you try and make a mood of it, if you try and change your attitude, you'll just get hypertension and probably ulcers.
Very often, you see, people get the impression when we talk about compassion, tolerance, these things, you see, people consider these are religious subject. That's not the case. While here, you see, when I explain about the importance of these mental good quality, you see, not related with any religious faith, whether one individual should believe or non-believer, it's individual right. Some people feel without any faith, you can manage happily and you feel more satisfaction. Absolutely right. But what I'm emphasis here is without these good human good quality, inner good quality, the individual person cannot be very happy or very calm person. That's quite clear. So therefore, these good human qualities, usually I consider the essence of secular ethics. That means good heart, sense of harmony, sense of respect, or sense of concern, or sense of caring. Now, these are the very important matter for humanity. After all, human being is social animal. So then, once you see these mental good quality develop and sustain in our day-to-day life, then every action then become a non-violent, constructive action.
I know when Dalai Lama was coming to Sweden the first time, he said, I would very much like to meet your spiritual leaders. And everybody looked around and said, we don't have any spiritual leaders, we only have political leaders. Is that something that is necessary for a society, would you say, to have spiritual leaders?
Is it necessary to have a spiritual leader? Every society to have a spiritual leader? Every leader can become spiritual.
By breathing and meditating.
By meditating. So every leader in the society can honor life, give more importance to life, and support the values of compassion and love and service. Then we can find a big transformation around us. And with lack of proper spiritual education, people will become fanatics. The only way to save the world from fanaticism is give them proper spiritual knowledge, in which everyone is made to understand that the whole world belongs to them, and all the scriptures in the world belong to them, whether it's Bible, Quran, Dhammapada, or Bhagavad Gita, any scripture in the world, any wisdom is part of them and belongs to them. When we start owning the whole humanity and all its glories, all its cultures, all its philosophy, then there won't be any problem, wars, or, we can put an end to this madness and the craziness that's going on.
Life is a constant contrast between pleasure and pain, between the extreme opposites that create experience. Inside you, there is a conglomeration of different types of archetypal energies. And these
Like what type of energies?
The sinner and the saint, the divine and the diabolical, the sacred and the profane, forbidden lust on the one side and unconditional pure love on the other side, dark night of the soul and beatitude of paradise. These are different basic energies. Then they stoke the furnace of life in the basement of your soul. And most people kind of run away from the dark side and say, I'm only going to do this. And so they suppress these energies. And ultimately, these energies burst out as rage or psychotic behavior or hostility or some kind of behavior that is quote-unquote evil. But the evil we see in our society, or the so-called evil we see in our society, is just a projection of our collective psychosis. We project our collective psychosis, as happened during the Second World War in Europe. It was a projected collective psychosis that created the madness of the Holocaust.
So we need to start with our own emotions and not believe that all the troubles are outside.
That's the manifestation of our collective psychosis.
It's very convenient
It's convenient to blame Hitler for the Holocaust. But he was a manifestation of something much more evil. It was not this one person. The person was,
a tool for...
He was just another human being, a corporal with a poor self-image.
So in other words, if we would start then becoming more aware, acknowledging our own dark sides...
Then we would help that process.
Then it would manifest outside.
Yeah, there's no other way than forgiveness and love, ultimately. Christ was absolutely right when he said, love can conquer anything. But you cannot get there by saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. That's, again, self-importance. I love you, do you love me? That's what it says. You cannot get there. Love is not an emotion. Love is not a sentiment. Love is a state of being. And when you have that state of being, then everybody around you ceases to feel hostility.
But how do you cultivate compassion? How can you help watering that little plant of compassion in your person?
Compassion is your natural state of being. So it's the same process. It's exactly the same process. You allow the spirit to unfold. You allow the transformation to occur in your consciousness. So, it's this tall building, and there are infinite elevators going up, and some of us are in the basement, and some of us are on the first floor, and some of us are on the 50th floor, and it's all okay. It's part of the cosmic soap opera, if you will. And the main thing is to accept that and to become aware of that. The only thing that can really transform anybody is awareness. Once you become aware, then that begins a slow mutation in your consciousness. And that mutation ultimately results in a different reality.
And where will we find the courage to meet our inner shadow?
What happens is if you totally first are aware of them, and you acknowledge them, and you become intimate with them, and
your own dark sides, all these
you
aspects.
become intimate with that, then, and you observe it, and you're honest about it, and you can express it. You don't hide it in some dark alley, some secret passage, some hidden dungeon. Then what really happens is you do not accumulate the toxicity of this in your body. But even more important, what happens is that you become spontaneously non-judgmental, because when you see behavior, so-called behavior which is morally inappropriate, quote unquote, you're more willing to forgive it because you have seen it in yourself. And if you become spontaneously non-judgmental, not through, I won't judge, but because you've gone through this process, then that spontaneous non-judgment is the basis for forgiveness. And forgiveness is the basis for love. And that's how you get rid of the psychoses of the collective mind, not by going out there and telling people this is how you behave and this is how you don't behave, but by going within and starting with yourself.
So there is a core or something within us that will always hold the wisdom necessary if we look inside?
It is there, when the mind is calm, collective, then anything you do from that state, it's with awareness. See, all mistakes in the world happens through unconsciousness, unawareness. That's all. When we are peaceful from within us, then we are able to create such harmony around us.
So outer peace can never exist without inner peace?
Certainly not. See, we convey more through our whole presence. And our words are just secondary. Do you see that when you get off the plane, the air hostess usually say, "Have a nice day." Of course, they say it out of courtesy. They don't feel, it's not coming from a feeling level. They don't feel it. But the same word, someone close to you say to you. Your mother, your brother, or your friend, your husband or wife. Then that carries some vibration along with it. Some presence, some feeling. And people are sensitive to that feeling. Someone may say, "I love you very much," but if they are angry inside, and a person can clearly make out, I mean, most of the people can make out that it's coming from a different dimension. So if we can clear our presence and bring peace in ourselves, then our presence becomes very harmonious. And when our presence is harmonious, people, whoever come in contact with, they automatically become harmonious.
Some marriages are more less like wars. It's a constant battle and struggle for who is in charge and who. How can you handle that?
Same thing. See, stress is the root cause of all this. Insecurity, stress. And also coming from a space of what I can get rather than what I can contribute.
You know how to bring inner strength. Compassion usually, you see, is, I think, open our inner door. As a result, you can communicate with other fellow human beings, even animals, I think, very easily. And through that way, you can develop genuine friendship. And that reduce sense of insecurity and reduce fear. Through that way, you get more self-confidence. And that bring more inner strength. Other hand, if you keep here ill feeling towards other,